Hey guys, before we get into the show, I wanted to let you know about our new agency data brill. We have custom technology that allows us to manage sponsored ads for large Amazon accounts for all the main markets. Also, we have developed tools to give us the ability to bring on board larger brands with thousands of SKUs covering all the main pain points and barriers companies normally encounter when getting onto Amazon at scale. So if you are a large brand wanting to get onto Amazon or looking for a scalable PPC solution for your Seller Central account, then get in touch with me directly via danny@sellersessions.com. Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Again, we bring in Sean Smith. Hey Sean, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just, a little tired, hanging out in the data, but I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean, every time we end up speaking, because these are obviously pre-recorded, they tend to be that you're at the death of night or the early morning. It's like you're like a vampire that never sleeps, which is brilliant.
It is. I'm happy you think so. I love it, dude. I like the PPC vampire spin on it. That's going to be my new thing, dude. That's what I'm going to be for Halloween, a PPC vampire.
Okay, getting down to brass tacks. A few things we're going to cover. Talk to me about the new lead times on reporting. This has changed now, isn't it?
Yeah, so you guys know that, I just love data and I love knowing really attribution. So I'm always like pounding the pavement with like how Amazon attributes certain things and how often they update it. And I got an update. It was about 3 weeks ago, but it was literally a really, really important update in terms of like how it changed how I thought about everything, because they've updated how they do the data attribution for sponsored products. Basically, sponsored products data is now updated every hour, and the data is no older than 12 hours, which previously it was updated every like 4 to 8 hours with 48 to 72 hour old data, which is just amazing, man. Like that's really, really cool because now it allows us to make more accurate decisions sooner. Also, the data excludes canceled orders. So, now we have a really, really precise, more precise understanding of the data attribution model and the updates that it's had. So this is going to help us make decisions a lot quicker because the data is refreshed a lot sooner, which is really cool. I'm very happy they did this. Very, very happy.
Exactly, especially if your spinning plates are moving pretty fast with stuff and you're midway through a launch and time is of the essence, and you're balancing off maybe doing some giveaways, running the PPC. You want to make sure that you're getting your sales going through to help with the ranking, etc. So having a tighter timeline works really well. It's a bit like that delay that you get with coupon codes as well.
Yeah.
So where do you think this came into play? Because obviously a big part of that is going to come down to payments that are pending and clearance, which will make a difference to the attribution. Is there something gone on there where they've either patched the two departments together a lot better, or is there been an improvement, do you think, on Amazon's end in speeding up the payment process?
That on the payment side, I'm not sure. So that one, I'm not sure how those correlate. Basically, it's going to allow us to just make better decisions on the PPC side. I don't spend too much on that payment end. On the geekier side is, people got to understand that like how Amazon attributes data to advertising. It's attributed to the click. Yeah. So to the click on the ad. And so like somebody could buy something else after they click on that ad, like completely different, and you could get attribution for that sale. And also another big thing was like a spot of contention was the old reporting contained 7-day, 14-day, and then 30-day ordered product sales and units and stuff. Now they only report 7-day. So that really like closes that window for getting like that, like executing on that, like having the full data set from the 30-day cookie. So that's something that like, if you're in your head, maybe your sales aren't as much, it's because it's a 7-day attribution window that we only have access to now.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Okay, moving on slightly. The tool's not launched yet, but apparently we've got this campaign suggest coming, haven't we? In terms of sponsored ads related to FBA stock.
Yeah, man. This is really cool. I got this. So I got an email like less than a day ago from a rep at Sponsored Products. And basically they're creating a tool that like will comb through your inventory report and then provide sponsored products campaign recommendations and then import them directly into your campaign manager. And basically, they're going to create these recommendations based on, like, Amazon sellers, they get these alerts on their inventory, like items with low traffic, top selling items, excess FBA inventory. And basically, they're going to allow you to, like, say, hey, do you want us to advertise the excess FBA inventory? Do you want us to advertise this, that, or the other? So how it will be used will be interesting to see. I do want to test it and see how it works and everything. I think it'll be interesting because it'll be tricky because, you know, we we personally don't recommend, like, you know, doing sponsored products for really poor performing items. Yeah. But I really think this is cool with integrating the inventory management portion of it with the PPC side of it.
Yeah, makes sense. And also, you've been working on a little technique that you're using for traffic forecasting, so you can predict search terms for PPC.
Yeah. So basically, like, what the cool thing is, so this is a good method for somebody that's doing search term research in their search term report. So what you want to do is you'll basically want to pull the total. So you're going to want the data unit. So Amazon allows you to, so it's going to be in the search term report. If you pull a search term report, what I would use is the data unit as total, not daily. Mm-hmm. Use the total data unit because they allow you to do one or the other. And then I think one of the big questions a lot of sellers have is, you know, how many impressions am I going to get? How many clicks am I going to get? How many sales and things like that am I going to get for a search term? Yeah. This is a good way to forecast it. So Amazon will tell you under column, if you pull a search term report and you open it, there's column A and column B. That's the start date and end date of that specific, it's a time frame. So like the start date could be March 1st and then the end date could be March 14th. And then what it'll tell you is under column H, that's your customer search term. And so between those in that 14-day time span for that customer search term, you can look at the impressions and clicks and then just divide those. So like you would say, like, hey, let's say I got like 900 impressions over that 14-day time frame. Well, then that's like, you know, roughly 64 impressions a day. I wouldn't look at like on a daily basis, but like you're looking that over like maybe like 5 to 6 days or 7 days or something like that. You're looking for that average. And then also you're going to want to look at your cost per click as well. So you can divide impressions by that time frame, clicks by that time frame. You can divide the total units, divide that by that time frame and see how many units were ordered, and then also look at the cost per click over that time frame, because you're going to want to bid competitively for that search term. So like if you have 900 impressions and your average cost per click is like $1.50, then you're going to want that's telling you that on average, you paid $1.50. So you're going to want to bid like above that to be competitive, to like increase your chances of potentially gaining that traffic. So that can help with, that's something we're going to test and see if it proves itself out. But that's a good way to like put together like potential forecasts for search terms.
Yeah. So what you're basically doing is you're taking the reporting with inside of Amazon, you're downloading the search term report, but you're setting it by whole units rather than by daily. Then because the whole unit report has a start and end date in there, which is going to be what you'll throw into the pivot table, then you're going to measure off your clicks, your impressions, and your sales all over that time period by dividing them down by the days, from which you can then pull out the information that's required for setting the start bid for your PPC on that specific search term. And then from that, you're able to forecast the budget for your PPC campaign.
Yeah, exactly. Forecast the starting bids, things like that. And you don't even need the pivot table. You can just do a quick filter. Yeah.
No, it makes total sense. Cool. And so with that in mind, it's probably a good thing to chat about is, again, we cover it quite a lot. I know me and Taylor speak about it quite a bit, is that difference in people just sitting down quickly, working out their PPC. Like people lump a budget together and say, that's my PPC budget, but there isn't any thought beyond that. And the challenge you're dealing with is like if you've got a big, you've got a big product in a large category that has a handful of search terms that everyone's going after, no matter what mathematics you do, it's never going to break even or be profitable for you.
It's true.
And it's like, well, where do I take the next step? And I think that's where the confusion lies, is people will quickly burn through their budgets and then they're out the game. So they've done all that work, brought their product in from China, done great listings, spent money on photography, lifestyle imagery, make sure they've got a good product, inspections, and then at the last hurdle, they run out of budget. So what's the best way for people to deal with this? Even though we've covered it numerous times on the show, but for any new listeners, it's important.
So basically, basically, how do you most effectively use your PPC budget? Pretty much. Yeah. There are a couple ways to do it. So one way could be, so if you really want to be effective, one way could be to run a conservative PPC approach until you get reviews. Mm-hmm. Because, it's kind of like a false positive in testing where, or I guess in this case it'd be a false negative, but like it's going to perform really poorly out the gate. And so from the time that you have 0 reviews to the time that you have 1 review, I would say like, it's kind of like a false negative, right? So like if it performed badly, that's a false, that's going to be like false data. And so you're going to want to like separate that data, right? So you're going to want to like separate the data from when you don't have reviews to when you have reviews. That's what I always tell people, like, hey, if we do launches and we go straight out the gate with PPC, like to keep in mind that until we get a review, it's a false negative to an extent. Because it's not going to perform as well. Also, I would say the big thing is in terms of using your budget. Well, first off, you should have a budget. Yeah. So some people don't have budgets for their PPC. I think it's really important to put together, roughly, it's like planning. Like we all know plans and forecastings. They're never precise. They're never exact.
They're either 100% right or 100% wrong, I find, most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to plan, man. You have to plan because what happens is it's like any experiment. You put together like your hypothesis. It could be the most wacky thing in the world. You test it. And if it's way off, you adjust it. Yeah. And so that's what you do. Like you find out how much you spent this month and then you say, okay, well, here was my forecast. And then you adjust it. But I would say the big thing is making sure dude, there's so many factors. There's like making sure that, you're in a really good category, you're the most relevant category, making sure your listing is super optimized. Because if it's not a well-optimized listing, then dude, it's horrible. That's just like just down. But if everything's in place and everything's good to go, then dude, really making sure that you're using auto campaigns. I call it auto campaigns. Okay. So, like I was helping my buddy Nick put together some, course content for like an Amazon course he has. And we were talking about like, auto campaigns, and I was going through the data. And if you notice, a lot of people say like an auto campaign is equivalent to a broad match. I actually don't think that's necessarily true. I call it like Amazon match, because, basically what happens is I would go through my like clients' auto campaigns, and there would be keywords in there, like phrases that are completely irrelevant from what's in there. And so to most effectively use your PPC budget, you have to use your auto campaigns, which takes into consideration your listing content, plus I believe like the category data as well. That's why you'll get some phrases in there that might not be in your listing. So they're really pulling like a wider data set, but that's expensive. And so you should be using broad and phrase match to do more targeted keyword research and and then like based on like phrases that are really relevant to the product, which most likely are in the title, using those to do really guided keyword research so that you can pull those long tails in. And another thing I noticed like a lot of sellers don't do is they don't do like long tail keyword research, man. Like they really have a small keyword data set. And that gets you in a lot of trouble because a lot of people want like really results really quickly. But the definition of a long-term keyword, like literally the definition is that it doesn't convert very often, doesn't have a lot of traffic. But when it does really well. And so making sure you're pounding the pavement with those keyword, like using different tools and just.
Well, I call them micro conversions, don't you? They convert over time rather than on a daily or weekly basis. Now, the other thing to look at as well is, like setting the start bids and everything. You were talking about the percentile the other day of predictability between, let's call them 3 stages, yeah? In terms of if it's a low bid, you're not going to get much. If it's a medium bid, you're in the lane. And then if it's a high bid, then the chances are you're going to perform a lot better based on that bid. Now, what about the situation of where people are dumping keywords into a campaign, setting them to merchant fulfilled, just so that they make sure that, and it might be the case with FBA, I haven't checked, but with merchant fulfilled, and then you can see what the suggested bid is by Amazon. That could be a start place to work on building up the budgeting for your campaign also.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like you could totally use that data and say to yourself, like what I've tried pulling, like copying and pasting and suggested bid data. I found out that you can get all 3 values in the API, but I think that's a great way to look at the forecasted average cost per click you're going to be paying for your products.
Yeah, because I mean, even though it doesn't give you impressions right at that stage, what it's telling you is what the bids are. If the bids are generally starting higher, then obviously recognises more popular keywords. If you don't get a suggested bid of any type, then it's probably not a keyword worth bidding on. So then you can narrow down all the junk quite quickly.
Yeah, and then make sure when you're looking at your average, so when you do look at those suggested bids, look at your price point as well, because it's relative to your price. If you're selling a $200 item, you can pay a higher cost per click, right? But if you're selling a $20 item, you've really got to think, hey, what's my target A cost? You would basically multiply, like, hey, let's say I have a like $30 item and I want a 10% A cost. I can only spend $3. And then if my suggested bids, if I do what I did the methodology, and the suggested bid is like $1 or $1.50, then it's like, whoa, I need at least a 33% conversion rate. Because the suggested bid itself is only the 50th percentile. So you're going to want to bid above that. So then that can tell you, like, hey, this is going to be, this might be higher A costs, especially when you're looking at your main keyword, your seed keywords.
So what's your ratio at the moment? If you kind of judge it from a click perspective, are you allowing for 5 to 10 clicks per conversion on your top set of keywords?
That's a good question. So there are 2 methods. You can either do the average for me, for like regular priced items, like 20 to $40 or something like that. The average PPC conversion rate is like 9 to 15% or 10 to 15%. So yeah, we'll actually go a little more conservative than that. Our hard number is always like 8 in terms of like cutting, every like we cut twice a week for that. Yeah. That's because I don't know, man, like after 8, and then it also depends on the number of clicks, but it also depends on the cost per click as well. So like if the spend, if we have like a lower priced item, I'll give like a lower spend threshold. Yeah. And so like I can't pay $2 a click for like a $15 item and get 8 clicks, because that's $16 or something like that, and that puts it exactly 100%. So taking into consideration your spend threshold per keyword's a good one.
Yeah, I think even if someone didn't even want to sit down with a calculator in any way, if they know that they're not going to convert on a handful of clicks, that almost kind of sets them up for those keywords straight away. If you look at it like from a bird's eye view, you might say that product's $15. I got a $5 margin. Each click is costing me $2.50 a click. Instantly, straight away there's a chance of that breaking even or getting anywhere near being profitable is zero, pretty much 0%. So that's a quick way of calculating your clicks. Obviously, you need to test this because every area is different. But I would say the more competitive the area, the more closely aligned, if it's a price market, with Me Too products, then it's defined by price, but it doesn't stop people going to click on those ads. So the chances are your cost per click is going to be one lot higher, and the velocity of the amount of clicks that are required to convert is going to be a lot higher as well, because the little essence from being different from the next product being advertised.
Yeah, and also like you said, high competition markets, usually the volume itself is really high. And so you might not be able to gather data over a 7-day time frame, right? So like if you're getting a ton of clicks in one day, like and you're not converting or something, you have to cut it off before you even can get like a full week, you know, and to
Yeah.
see like how it works over in the wild for a decent time frame.
Yeah.
So it really constricts your ability to like pull like longer data sets.
What's your current take on Bid Plus? Are you still into Bid Plus, or have you stopped using it?
I did a test
Yeah.
on Bid Plus, like a controlled study, and I didn't see any improvements.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I don't use it that much.
Do you think that it's that AdWords thing, isn't it? It's like letting AdWords managing your account over controlling it yourself, not so much on the display network, but more on running PPC ads in the normal search engine.
Yeah. It's definitely like, you know, Amazon, they have an objective to grow their ad platform. And so you're constantly
why not through Bid Plus? Yeah.
Yeah, why not offer Bid Plus? Dude, honestly, I'm open to Bid Plus. I'm open to everything that they have, but I have to test it and see if there are measurable results. And so I really like to talk to people and say, hey, you know, when I talk to reps or I talk to anybody, I say, hey, do you have like a strong use case for this specific feature? Like, have you seen like what type of results and stuff like that? And then dig a little deeper, right? Like, hey, like, oh, we saw these crazy results. Like, whoa, what was the conversion rate for that product? You know what I mean? Like, what was the price point for that product? What was the average cost per click? What was that ACoS? So, but I don't really use it that much. I don't have a strong use case for it at the moment.
But I think I used, like me, at one point, I was using it as a bid ceiling. So you know, but not so much of a fan of it anymore. But you know, when you're starting out a few years ago, it just come in and you're going, actually, this kind of worked quite well. But it was very much specific in and around certain products rather than across the board.
It was the same here. Like, we took literally a top selling product and it was a really solid product. It did $100,000 a month and just one SKU. And so, you know, this is a product that had like a super low ACoS, was really running well efficiently. And I was like, let's turn it on for 2 weeks and see what happens, the Bid Plus, to see if basically what our goal was like, hey, like, let's see if sales go up pretty much. And, you know, ACoS isn't affected like crazy. And honestly, we didn't see like crazy performance metrics. Like I didn't see anything that made me say, whoa, this thing really did it. And I figured like I didn't test, like I didn't pull huge data sets and test this across tons of products, but I figured if it doesn't do well for a top selling product, if it didn't like perform like what I thought it would for a top performing product, I don't know. I'm making the assumption that it wouldn't do well for a poor performing product.
Yeah. Makes sense. Before we jump off, covered quite a lot of ground here. What is the best way that people can reach you? What you got coming up? Coming up. Going to Hong Kong for Global Sources Summit, which I'm very, very excited about. I'll see you over there, but I'm across the border. I'm over in China, in Shenzhen, down the road at the cross border.
I know they're not far from each other either. They're literally.
It's an hour. Yeah, you can get there in about an hour. Okay, Sean, let's wrap it there. How can people reach you?
People can reach me, Sean@junglehustle.com.
Excellent. Guys, thank you for joining us. Sean, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all again soon. Take care.